Dorje Chang Dorje Chang Namo 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 Shamoni 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 Kwan Shuryen Pusa Namo 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 Kwan Shuryen Pusa.
Sometimes when we have challenges that come up in our life, we think that compassion is sympathy. Sympathy is sympathy. And compassion is compassion. It involves sympathy, but it also involves the Dharma action that needs to be taken to rise above the vicissitude that is wearing against on us due to. Did I give you my phone?
Yes.
Can I have it back? I made a. We'll see how this works. I can't. It's hold like 3 things in my head, so I made myself a note. So I wanted to talk a little bit about habit energy today. because we can stay in our head around things, but that's not what continual practicing is. Continual practicing is having the courage and the fortitude, the strength and the foresight and the willingness to it's like being thirsty and there's a glass of water right there. You said, but I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty. I'm like, I'm just dying of thirst. There's the glass of water right there. And it says, I just need you to really understand how thirsty I am, you know. And but it's a matter of reaching out and taking, because there it is. It's right there. And habit energy is what keeps us from reaching, and that's why continual practice is so important. Really understanding what continual practice is, and if you could, it really is. Like when something is coming at you, instead of tucking your tail and turning and running, it is meeting it, um, and developing a confidence based on your renunciation, that when this hits, it is like it can like just pass right through you because it can find nothing in you. So this is not a thing that we can fake, but it is something that we can uh, practice until we develop enough uh, confidence based, and when I say based on renunciation, it's like I like it, but I'm not gonna like it so much that if I don't have it, it's gonna like just totally destroy me. Otherwise, people would never be able to fall and get up again. It would take away all hope. It would take away the whole process of developing stronger, like exercise. I cry every time I go to therapy. I ain't even doing nothing, pretending I'm holding weights, you know, and I'm looking at everybody got 2 pounds, 4 pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. I'm still pretending I'm holding weights, and like I'm tired, and they're like just going, but I keep going. And and then I have a day when that day I didn't feel tired. And I can see that I'm getting stronger, but we don't know, except what we don't know our own strength. That's what the Dharma is telling us. We don't know our own strength. And if we can come to know that, it's not because you say that I'm strong when I'm feeling weak. It's let the weak say I am strong. And so there is a certain surmounting that we have to have. So compassion offers the kind of mind training and encouragement to use your training at the time that you need it to save you. Otherwise, what's the point of it? It's a, it serves no point. Nothing uh, 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 really matter. So what thwarts us is habit energy, and understanding something is different than taking uh, taking a different action, applying. And it's two ways that you can look at everything. That's why he says cut away the non-differentiation, because when you can take a stand against something, it's the same as not taking a stand. I mean, when you really look at it, it's when you take a stand, it's not fighting something. It's you just getting in your position, and then you could let the wind blow as hard as it can, you know. But so it's a matter of what you're trusting in, and that's why you have to really, really be able to apply action or we call it continual practice, but action in every moment rather than so much thinking about every moment. Because if you do, your thoughts are gonna fall into the way you have thought, and the way you always have thought becomes the way you always think, and there's nobody who can help you um, out out of that. So it was a great opportunity for me when I read. It was just one little line somewhere in what we've been reading lately, and Buddha Master said, you know yourself. hmm Um, so when I thought like I didn't get it, I didn't say like when I undertake an action and that action may not be like a really, it might be what I consider a good action for me. It's not necessarily a good action, for somebody else. Um, and and then I have a change of heart, and and now I see like that wasn't good, like I shouldn't have done that. But at the time I was doing it, I knew then. I just didn't feel like putting forth the effort, you know. I just really didn't feel like putting forth the effort. It's like being patient, Patience is putting forth the effort to let the moment pass without you uh, adding to the moment, to sustain the moment, to deepen the moment, it's just letting the moment be the moment. And the more we get in the habit of letting the moment be the moment, the less the moment governs how the capacity we have to respond to the moment. It's like saying, I want help, but and so you're talking, but I can't hear you because I'm not listening to you right now because I keep dealing with these voices that's in my head that's saying that. So I'm not listening, but I'm asking you for help. I mean, it's going in two different directions, but that's how we do as ordinary beings with ordinary mind consciousness. I mean, that's like why we're here. It's not like we're doing it because we're here. We're here because we've been doing it. So that's habit energy. And when the mind um, gets into a different state, then it needs a different landing place, a different resting places. And there's cabillions of worlds, for each for suitable minds. And so I went back through some of Buddha Master's teachings, and I don't think I've read this for maybe 2 years, maybe even more, but I thought I would read this one today to encourage us to be brutal with habitual tendencies, but to be gentle with ourselves. So there's a difference. We are not our tendencies, but our tendencies are what put into motion the cause and effect, and then we become, the recipient of the effect. And so I'm saying, stop hurting ourselves, stop damaging ourselves, and call up, bring to remembrance what you do in this situation. It's like I took this CPR class, and I passed the class, but I'm gonna tell you, you would not want me to try to do CPR on you. I got a certificate and everything, but first of all, I was on a dummy. So on the dummy, I'm compressing. Then you get on a real human being, and I'm like, I'm really not so sure about this thing here. Um, and so that's the difference in the playing field. If you're working on a dummy, or it's a real person. And so we have to gradually develop our capacity and test it out. That's the only way we really know how well we can do. I only know whether I can save somebody using the CPR techniques when I have to actually work on it. So, you go for recertification every once in a while. I said, no, never mind. It's no point in me. I'm not even going to pretend that I, think I can do that or even want to be the one that has to do it, because I don't want somebody's life in my hands that way. But there's some people who commit themselves to this, who commit themselves to saving lives. Good. What my prayer is, not that I'll be there to save your life, but that they'll be there to save your life. So we have to know ourselves and see where we're weak and see where we're strong, and see how our weaknesses and our strengths line up with our true aspirations. Maybe it's all I want. All I want to do at this time. Then be okay with that. You know, uh, the danger is when we don't want to go further. When we don't want to go further, but we pretend that we do. That's, it's perfectly okay to be wherever you are in your process. Because sometimes you're learning, and you're beginning to understand. But there is a difference between understanding and actually being able to execute. And that's where the practice part comes in. It makes you able to execute. And some things I'm committed enough to working at it until I can execute it. Other things I'm not. And so we have to know ourselves. And in time, our priorities change, our interests change. Um, I have not missed my children. I know they're there. I know they're well. Uh, you know, everything's good. So proximity has never mattered to me. But when I asked the doctor, could I go because they want to take me away for 10 days and they paid, for this cruise and everything. And he said, no, I don't want you to go. And I'm like, you got to rethink that, because I really need to go. It's important to me this time because I'm practicing on something right now. And what I'm practicing it on is I forsook everything, even forsook family, for the sake, in my own way, for the sake of the Dharma. And I only had eyes for people who are interested in the Dharma. This is where I could be of service. This is what my whole, life was moving towards. And they understood and they let me go. And 1 year turned into 5, turned into a decade, turned into 20 years, and now 30 years. But it's just like yesterday. I was with them yesterday. In my mind, it seems like yesterday, but it wasn't yesterday. It was 30 years ago. And he said, oh, you want to do so much for the Dharma? Take care of your own family first. Now, that's not for everybody, because some people are only into their family, you know. But that's not for me, because I'm not one who's like, that's not where my interest, like I was only interested in the Dharma. And so he said, so what the message I get from that is not that I need to spend more time with my family. Some of that, spending a lot of time with our family, is what causes the continuation of the what kind of energy? Of the habit energy. But went, I me knowing my own mind, thinking maybe I went too far in that. So I want, because things are a little uncertain right now, I want to do this with you know, I want to do this with my daughter. I want her to have her final memories of it. At the end, she was there with me, or something like that. I want her to be peaceful, because unless she gets hit by a bus, she's probably going to outlive me. But I want her to have, not that 30 years ago she said sayonara and left for the Dharma and like, it's always other people, always other people. I want to do this. And so I explained to him why I wanted to do it. And so then he said, okay, he said, well, here's my number. If you have an incident, have the doctor on the ship to call me. And then I got the insurance to fly, to be able to fly home, or, special, everything that I need and all the medicines that I need. And so what I'm trying to say is there comes a point that this is not just some pie in the sky talk somewhere, but it's really about eradicating the suffering that's in your life. A lot of our suffering is around our attachments to people, our attachments to certain groups of people, our attachment to certain teachings, our attachment, you know, um, but Buddha Dharma is beyond all. It's beyond all of that. Our attachment to what will people say if my languaging changes or shifts? They didn't like when my languaging started changing. They didn't like that because they're used to this language, this view, and when you start talking something else, it's almost like you're doing something to me, or you're going against me, or but it's not. Just continuing to grow, and we all have to do it. And we can't take a picture and say, see, I was in that class, I was in that room. But it's only how much we have loosened and let go of our habit, energy. So don't be afraid when you start to recognize changes occurring in you. And don't start thinking, well, then who will I be then? Because people know me like that. I know me like this. And when the anxiety of I'm changing comes, instead of fighting, he's just like, just open up and see what else there is for you to shift. The very things that we have wished for. You can wish for something for so long, want something for so long, and when it gets close, like you get afraid of it. Um, and that's how we do, and we draw back like a yo-yo, you know, uh, to the thing that we're familiar with, but but it's at the root of our suffering. So the title of this Dharma is cutting off the 20 Dharmas relating to ordinary feelings. And as I'm reading this, because I want us to be right here with it, examining our own lives, if there's anything you want to say, any comment you want to make, any question you want to ask, um, just go ahead and feel free to do that because I don't want us to just listen today, but to also reflect while we're listening. So if there's some clarity you need around a word, and he does a lot of that clarifying in this one. So that's why I appreciate it. And I think it would be helpful. Today is the 8th lesson in the exposition of Dharma during a trip to the East. The Dharma of this 8th lesson is very important. It's a very important Dharma. All lessons in this series are important, but the 8th lesson relates to cultivation and is very important. I expound this Dharma to living beings in response to a question posed by a venerable one. What is this Dharma that I'm about to expound? It is about how to cut off ordinariness and enter holiness. Ordinariness refers to the path of ordinary people, that is, the path of samsara. Holiness refers to the path of leaving samsara and ending the cycle of birth and death. Thus, there is the phase of cutting off ordinariness and entering holiness. So if you thought that holiness was some type of uber spiritual kind of state, like uber spiritual, like uber religious, then you have the wrong understanding of the word holiness. So we have to redefine what Webster said. I don't know Webster's whole background, but redefining Webster's definition of holiness. And here is our new standard or understanding of holiness. Holiness is a kind of liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Now that changes its complexion for me, you know, um, because it's speaking about a freedom, a kind of freedom. So holiness now starts to become synonymous with freedom, into a kind of liberation. Uh, Thinking of holiness as a liberation inspires me to reach for it, because it's now moved from the category of good and bad to bound and free, or suffering and freedom. So this whole teaching and this whole path is the pathway to freedom, the pathway to liberation. Sometimes we have been taught that something is liberating, but as we're experiencing it, it feels more like suffering. I'm like, wait a minute, is this liberation? Looking at it far off in the distance, I thought it was. But as I moved towards it, every step, there's the strain, the pull, the tug, the sadness, you know. And sometimes we have difficulties on the other end. We have a kind of energy that's like a manic energy, something that can make us so happy. And he's not against happiness. As I go through these 20 dharmas, and we'll differentiate. Um, but he says this is a fundamental dharma. That's why it's very important. Don't all Buddhists cultivate themselves in order to cut off ordinariness and to enter holiness? If you don't cut off ordinariness, then you cannot enter holiness. You cannot experience the freedom. Why do I say that? If we grab and are attached to the things of ordinary people, then we will forever revolve in samsara, and we will not reach the holy state called liberation. If we are to reach the holy state, we must thoroughly discard the delusion-based deeds, discard the deeds discard the deeds. That means that in the moment when an action is required, we must discard the habitual tendency and activate the correct deed that will give us the freedom in that moment to be able to be in that moment. And we must thoroughly discard those things that cause us to be unable to end cause and effect. Only then will we be able to reach the holy state. I give you an analogy. Let's say you drive a car along an ordinary road. If you don't discard that road or turn off that road, you will be unable to reach the freeway. To reach the freeway, you must leave that road. It's just that simple. Well, let's say you very much want to travel in the sky, then you must take an airplane. But if you want to take a plane, you're going to have to discard all forms of ground transportation, such as motorcycles, bicycles, and cars. Therefore, you cannot enter holiness unless you have cut off worldly ordinariness. Do you understand? You must truly understand what I'm saying, otherwise it'll be unfortunate for you. Take, for example, the worldly 8 dharmas of gain and loss, honor, disgrace, praise, ridicule, pleasure, and suffering. These are all part of ordinariness. Many years ago, I exhorted everyone to cut off attachment to and extricate themselves from these worldly 8 dharmas. This was translated in June of 2009. So he did this maybe 2005. He may have, and then he may have actually started his exhortations in 2000. I mean, it's almost like a sad song, you know, like you say the same thing over and over, and 1 year turns into 5 years, turns into 10 years, turns into 20 years. You just stop talking. They'll say, I've said everything. Just go cultivate. Many years ago, I exhorted everyone to cut off attachment to and extricate themselves from these 8 worldly dharmas. Since then, I have even repeatedly emphasized this. However, who's actually doing that? As soon as a moment when actual cultivation is needed, your energy, your attachment to self emerges and you become a different person. And as a result, you don't carry out the teaching regarding the 8 worldly dharmas. In the course of time, you even forget about that teaching altogether. There are even those who haven't understood that teaching and therefore just have a superficial knowledge. When I say some people, I'm actually referring to most practitioners. Most practitioners have not understood that teaching. I'm not disparaging everyone. I'm simply speaking honestly, and I'm speaking from my heart. In short, if you do not cut off ordinariness, entering holiness is out of the question. You have not understood those 8 dharmas of Shakyamuni Buddha. But I will not expound those to you today. I will expound to you my dharma. This dharma requires cutting off the 20 dharmas relating to ordinary feelings. Cutting off these 20 dharmas relating to ordinary feelings is very important. Just how important? I will read this verse to you and you will know. Only by cutting off the 20 dharmas relating to ordinary feelings can you enter the holy, unhindered state. Attachment to self plants the causes and is the root of samsara. Do not be contaminated by anything whatsoever, and subtle existence will emerge. Forever uphold and practice the things of enlightenment, and you will be able to apply your samadhi powers in a free, in an unhindered, and in an unattached way. The meaning of this is as follows. If you cut off the 20 dharmas relating to ordinary feelings that I'm about to explain, you can enter holiness and attain the unhindered state. After you cut off these 20 dharmas relating to ordinary feelings, attachment to self can no longer entangle you. So sometimes it's not just a matter of hearing something and saying, well, I disagree with that. I don't see any harm in this. It's not about that. It is looking for the fruit that's in the teaching. So when I hear something that I don't agree with, or I've been practicing something that's on the flip side of that, I don't discard it. I don't discard it. I never say that doesn't apply to me. I'm like, how do I take this teaching currently and integrate that into what I'm already learning, experiencing, doing what I already know. So our tendency is to discard if we're doing something different, you know. And so in my renunciation, part of that was releasing my children's dependence upon me and my dependence upon them for each other's happiness. I don't know how many lifetimes we've done that dance, but it was allowing the shift, and so it's almost a chore. And in the beginning, when I said, well, I need to make sure that I've left my family all right. I know about preachers' kids, you know, and the preachers just so busy taking care of their congregation, their flock, everybody else, and the children feel virtually abandoned. So coming up in steeped in a deep uh, fundamentalist background, when something happened to my daughter, she felt like she couldn't even tell me that something happened to her, because she didn't think that I would understand because I'm so rigid in my religiosity, that I wouldn't be there for. She was 35, before she could even share something that was deeply personal and destructive to her. And I'm saying that so that you can really think about deep yourself in your own life, because we all have something like this. And where we need to be in moving that needle to the place that we uh, weaken the attachment, because whatever we are attached to, when we leave that, when there's the peeling away of the physical body that's comprised of the elements and the consciousness, that consciousness did not cease at that moment. Only there was the parting of the consciousness and the physical body. And so those thoughts will go to whatever is germinating, and whatever you are attached to, your next thought is going to be right there with that. And if it's with my children, as if that was life, then that's how the cycle comes around again. It doesn't mean you hate people. It doesn't mean you have um, no uh, feeling and become like a doorknob, uh, but it is just loosening the grasping to know that this is a temporary coming together of things. It's not a forever thing. Sometimes I speak about Panyadeepa. I speak about Panyadeepa as if he was present, but Panyadeepa was only present in that life that he lived here. And when that was the end of Panyadeepa. Now there is that consciousness, and it becomes something, but it's not Panyadeepa. I just call it Panyadeepa for reference. But I understand that that's not Panyadeepa. That coming together to form a particular being for particular expressions had its arising, its presence, and its falling away. It didn't depart, it was the falling away of Panyadeepa, And now all that Panyadeepa is a memory in my mind. It's a great memory. It's one that I fall back on from time to time. Like if something is, you know, in my view, that I can remember some word of wisdom that he gave me, that helped me, that sustained me. But preparing ourselves so that we can do that, and then putting into practice actions based on what we uh, know or embrace or hold as true, become really, really crucial for there to be the letting go of the attachment that we have, as if this is life and all else is just tied into this. It's not. And so if we can't do that around things external to us, how much more difficult for us to let go of self? And we be talking about, oh, I let go of self. Oh, I let go of self. You know, but you can see how deeply we are attached um, and hindered. And so he says that this attachment to self is the cause or the root of samsara, cycle of continual existences. And so there's no way for you to end the cycle of birth and death. So when we end the cycle of birth, it's no longer thinking that there is a Pannavati sitting at the center of all of this experiencing, and it all revolves around her. I'm coming and I'm going and I'm meeting you over and over and over. That all of that is the delusion, you know. So it's really us gradually loosening and getting off of the center of our world, or this illusionary world that we have created. Now that these are just words, but the practices allow us to expand our consciousness beyond the limitations of this physical world. They're just technologies. They're methodologies by which it's like, you know, looking at something with your ordinary eyes, looking at them through the lens of some glasses, or looking at it with a magnifying glass. And with each one, you're going to have different levels of seeing and different levels of understanding what's actually there. So this is these practices are a means for connecting with parts or aspects of ourselves, like our Buddha nature that is of a different frequency than our physicality is, uh, and knowing something through the lens of that state. Um, and if we do, then I mean, I read some of the science is phenomenal that's coming out, or maybe I just started reading. Maybe it always has been, but like I don't understand science that much. You know, I don't want to know how electricity works. I just want to make sure somebody pays the bill and I can hit the thingy and the lights come on. You know, if they don't come on, I know it's either something's broken in the wall, something's broken outside, or didn't pay the bill. This is very simple for me. Um, and and really, that's enough to know. Then I could like call the experts. So in the Dharma, we're calling the experts who have directly apprehended these expanded kinds of consciousness that allow them to perceive things beyond the ordinary or the more dense um, frequency, well, dense and frequency, the more dense modes of, Dharma meaning things, and we can see them in a more expanded way, and we can see they're not what they appear to be, you know, when we're looking at them through no ordinary lens. And so, because we think this is the real world, our total sensibility is around grasping and holding this world according to these feelings that he's going to talk about now. He said, you should always bear in mind and forever uphold things of enlightenment. You should walk the Bodhisattva path, enlightening yourself and others, and benefiting living beings in the 6 realms, not just this worldly human realm, but living beings in the animal realms, and in the asura realms, and in the peta or ghost realms, and in the hell realms, and even in the heavenly realm. In the heavenly realm, he says, after you reach a certain state, you can apply your samadhi powers in a free, unhindered, and unattached way. So that's the encouragement that we can. We just have to be in the state that allows that kind of seeing. This means that you attain supernatural, supernormal powers and or capacities or abilities, and enter the state of subtle existence that is truly empty, and you are thoroughly accomplished. You too have become a holy being. This is the meaning of cutting off ordinariness and entering holiness. So you can see how important cutting off these 20 dharmas relating to ordinary feelings are. I'm sorry, I'm really feeling this, so I'm speaking soft. Is it too soft? Can you hear me okay? Okay. What I'm about to teach is not only a matter of understanding, but you must also master and carry out the teachings related to each of these. Of course, I've spoken such words countless times before. Everyone hears my words, but they later discard them. To do that today certainly would be unacceptable. Today I expound this Dharma. So now he's talking, and in a way, and that's if you can receive it, he's giving a transmission today. So there's something powerful coming at you to break a yoke, to break a bond, if you will, that maybe in times before you've thought about it, or like you just heard it, but it was like just hearing something. But he's saying, he's letting us know now that there's like a transmission going forward with this teaching. He says, today, this is a Dharma. It's not chit-chat conversation, you should do this, try to do that, be okay with it. There is a there is a power going forth with it, that if you can receive it as such, it will give you more of a capacity to walk out the teaching. That's what I'm saying. Today, I expound this Dharma to everyone due to great karmic conditions. I will directly tell you this Dharma that I know. This Dharma cannot be partially carried out. It must be fully carried out. Otherwise, you will be like the car I spoke of a moment ago. You will be unable to reach the freeway, and you will forever go round and round on surface streets amid red traffic lights. You'll be unable to take an airplane and will forever remain on the ground riding in a slow car. If you truly want to cut off ordinariness and into holiness, then you must walk this path of discarding these 20 dharmas. What are they? They are fame, gain, prosperity, decline, good fortune, gladness, increase, decrease, antipathy, resentment, anger, hatred, scheming, defamation, seizing, harming, illness, suffering, parting, and death. Fame refers to our reputation or name. Living beings like fame. That's because with fame comes gain or wealth. Fame can come from various places. You can have fame due to your status in society. With respect to fame outside of society, you can have undeserved fame, such as those so-called Rinpoches and Dharma teachers and other eminent monastics and greatly virtuous ones. And that means that, because the title's been given to you, you think you have something, but if you can't actually live it, you don't really have it. And fame is seeing ourselves then through the eyes of being superior in some kind of way than other people. There are famous people in all walks of life. Where there's gain to be had, greed emerges. Thus, fame is one Dharma, and gain is another Dharma. It is easy to violate the law of cause and effect when you are greedy for gain. However, you are acting correctly if you understand the truth and justly receive the gain in order to nourish your life, the life of your family, your loved ones, and to cultivate good actions towards others. And that would be those who would not be your family. I saw a little mini biography of, I don't know the rapper's name, or I don't know, it's not exactly a rapper, but he made the song, "'Cause I'm Happy." Clap your hands if Pharrell, right? And said, and I never knew this about Pharrell. Or they said, Pharrell is worth whatever, $100 million. He said, but Pharrell doesn't own a big fancy car. He drives like a truck. He doesn't have a 10 million, $20 million house. He lives in a little small house. He doesn't have, and he went through all the things he said. So what's he do with his money? Well, he started this foundation and that foundation. He did this for people. He did that for people. And it was, and he said, what would you do if you were Pharrell? And it made me feel good about it. And now I understand his music. And he has a sense of who he is as a person, uh, and so he doesn't have to flash the bling bling. And so it's not, a lot of people think that there's something, your wealth is your good fortune. It's not like you just happen to get it. There are conditions that allow that to manifest in your life, and maybe in this life you rich, in the next life or last life you were broke. It was whatever is ripening, But we should not attach to it in a way that it is ours, but more in a way that we are the steward of it. And then we can enjoy it and have no guilt around it, and we can be supportive and helpful in the world, not in the way other people think we should be, but in the way we want, in the way we actually want to be, without any regard of what it looks like from the outside, but just enjoy. I've always said I've been rich and I've been poor, just better. And so but when I have, I enjoy it. When I don't have, I'm just as happy, maybe even happier. And so it's just being able to be with how things are manifesting in your life without a sense of attachment to it. Just being in enjoyment and appreciation and gratitude. It's letting go of the stress of things. I read something where a famous biographer said that he thinks that, well, I'm not saying this, but he was saying that he thinks that Elon Musk is losing his mind, and and this is, man, it's brilliant. beyond brilliant, but there's other things tied into that. And so this brilliance, can't have its full flavor and work its way out for the benefit of mankind. Because there's a lot that goes into that's how complicated it is. We can't like reduce people to they're like this or they're like that. That's just one aspect. That's just one aspect of them. And being the richest man in the world is not keeping him from going crazy. It might even be hastening it, or uh, so we can't look at any one aspect and start making a determination around that. But we do that with ourselves a lot. Um, so if you want to cut off ordinariness, then we have to really look and see which of these fame, gain, prosperity, decline, good fortune, gladness, increase, decrease, antipathy, resentment, anger, hatred, scheming, defamation, seizing, harming, illness, suffering, parting, and death. Because those are all in the category of living beings. So that tells you something about Buddhas not being in the category of living beings. It's another category altogether. And those who are bodhisattvas would be Buddhas to be, then that tells you that from like being bodhisattvas in the causal stage and being bodhisattvas all the way up until you pass through the highest stage, then that they are not perfect either. And so we've always had this notion but there's stages of perfection, stages of enlightenment, but you're a Buddha when you're Buddha. And in that classification of being. So you have the classification of Buddhists, you have the classification of bodhisattvas, you have the classification of arhats, you have the classifications of living beings, and then and within the classification of the living beings are the 6 other classes of hell, animal, ghost, human, asura, and devas or God realm, God realm beings. When you don't let gain have you, then you are free to enjoy. When you are greedy for gain, then you become contaminated. So I've been thinking a lot about what will, happen to the Sangha in the future, and how I want to do something, to help ensure the survival of the Sangha. And so I said, well, I've for the last 30 years, I put a lot of things out of my mind, But before that, I did a lot of those things because I wanted a certain lifestyle. And I had it. Now I don't care about it. If I did, I'd still be doing it. I don't care about it. But then I was thinking, I want the Sangha to be able to thrive for a long time. So maybe I need to turn my head around while I can still think. Turn my head around and do a few things that I know to do if I was interested in those kinds of things, which I'm not. So it's difficult to do it when you don't have a thirst for it. It's difficult to do. But I went on and I subscribed to a financial newsletter, and I got my first issue. And what they do is they have different technologies that give you clues for potential, and then you look at the ones who've done with their prediction software and so forth, and who've had hits, regular hits, and then they give you some choices every month, and you can invest a little bit in them. And so I said, it's not for me. I don't need anything. Everybody takes care of me, but what could I leave or generate in the next year? I mean, you catch the right thing, and so I went with one that mentioned when everybody was saying there's nothing left for Bitcoin now, like it's like you missed the wave. And they were saying, no, you haven't missed the wave yet. It's going to hit 100,000 a bit or whatever they call it, and I went on and I didn't have much. I put $200 in it. That's it. But um, but I followed the advice, and so I looked 2 years later, and my Bitcoin has increased to up 526% in 2 years. I said, sure, I need to turn my hat around. I'll take care of it. And maybe that's I'll get a little bit more serious about this. That I could take the proceeds from the Bitcoin, and flip it off into a couple of these other AI technologies because they're here now and they're not going anywhere. We're just gonna get with the program or we're gonna be left behind. But it's not even how consumer technology, because we're looking at that, right? All of this consumer stuff. But unfortunately, it's going to be in other ways, like national defense or these things. And we saying, like I don't want to be a warmonger, but I tell you, if some planes from wherever, since bombers start flying this way, we're going to want our government to try to protect us. That's really, really the truth, the truth of it. I'm against this incoming president talking about, I want Greenland, we're going to take Canada, we're going to take my, but when crazy people, I'm sorry, but when people are speaking in that way of preempting and going I can see that those countries need to be able to protect themselves. A king protects his kingdom. He protects his people, you know. And in Samsara, particularly in this particular world, we have to deal with these kinds of things, you know. Um, and so I said, so maybe I will, and when yesterday or the day before yesterday, they had the official, count of votes that I've never watched before ever in all my years as an American, but they did the counting and so forth, and they officially said that the incoming president has the votes and all of that. And I was like, oh, there's this other newsletter I want. I better get that newsletter, because I know there's going to be a market shift right quick. And I want to do that before the 20th, my mind jumped right into that mode, is what I'm saying, And I told you last night, I couldn't sleep. Um, I went to bed early, like about 6:30 or something like that. But I couldn't rest thinking I need to get up and subscribe to that newsletter so that I can go ahead and do this investment. And it was like right there on me, when if I couldn't rest my mind. And I said, that's greedy for gain, regardless of what I want to use it for. It's a difference. It was still a seed of greed. You see what I'm saying? That's what we have to really, really hold ourselves up to the light of the teaching, because it can be so, so subtle. And I'm saying, I don't know who's on TV, but who's on there, but I'm just speaking honestly, because I want you to know how honest you have to be with yourself. If I thought like that's a good idea, remember to do it tomorrow morning, Pannavati, that would be one thing. But because there was some anxiety there about, will I miss the opportunity to get in it? I said, oh, then I can't touch that tomorrow. So today I didn't do it. Today I dealt with a greedy seed that got watered, that was still rooted in my consciousness. And I'm glad, because I didn't know that it was there, but it was clear to me that it was there because I had the anxiety, to jump ahead and do it. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I am gonna do it, I guess. But right now, before I can do it in a pure sense, I have to deal with that. You see, I have to deal, yes.
So if you were doing it for the purpose of assisting the development of the ongoingness of the Sangha, is that greed?
Oh, yes, I can tell it's greed, because there is this feeling, that's the anxiety in the wrapping around. Because doing something for the Sangha, you can have good intentions, but you have to be able to pick something up and let something go. You have to be able to do both equally. And the anxiety emerges when there is a preference for something. Yes.
Or fear of scarcity.
Exactly. And so that will let you know what, even if you don't know exactly what it is, it'll let you know there's something that you have to deal with to be able to carry it out in a pure sense, where there is no attachment to it. That's what the anxiety lets you know, that you got some kind of attachment to it. So it's an important sign, but people don't know what to do with it when they have it, But the Dharma tells me what to do with it. Like, you were going hard, going good, all that, and you need to look right there. And then, are we willing to do that? Are we willing to stop our good intentions and look right there? I want to get it straightened out so that I can move forward with my good intentions, you know. But so that's how deeply you have to look at this. Prosperity and decline. Prosperity means that everything's prosperous and flourishing. We like it when things are going good. In such case, you are glad. Your attachment to self, though, then increases. You know how it's like when everything's going good and you're all sunny. Hey, Bob, how you doing, Susan? Because your life is going fine. And theirs can be tanked in the toilet, but you're just so chipper because everything's is going good for you, for you. But it says you have to be in that critical moment and yet be a person of great holiness that's not moved at all by how well things are going for you. So it lets us know when the froth is overflowing the glass, and if I'm overly happy when things are going good, then that's going to be made up in sadness when things are not going good. So it's that finding that fine line, that yes, you want all prosperity and good fortune. I mean, we're not idiots, but could be equally unmoved if we didn't have it, or if we lost it all, or if we didn't go in this direction but went in another direction, or when we start something but if we have to end it, or and that's where it gets very, very difficult. There's a scripture the Bible says, better the end of a thing than the beginning of it. And I never really understood that, but I'm beginning to understand now because of our attachment to good things, that it becomes sorrowful instead of like, well, time's up for that, and just being present for the next thing, or even if there is no next thing. And now we can say these words, but I'm talking about inside, because the anxiety ain't hovering out here, it's inside. And that is what steals our peace. So he says, at critical moments, people of great holiness. Holiness means what? What's another word? Liberation or freedom. Yeah. People of great liberation or freedom. They're not moved at all. They're not moved at all. At non-critical moments, they're also indifferent. In all matters, their intention is to benefit living beings, but no worldly matters are of any threat to them. So I'm thinking not getting in on that call, and I need to get the transcript, and I need to get the name of the company that NVIDIA is acquiring a company, and so I don't want to invest in NVIDIA. I missed that one. And I thought about that. That all came back to my mind. I missed NVIDIA, right? Because I had the newsletter that said do NVIDIA. I didn't do it. Talked about doing, but never followed through. Okay, so the opportunity is gone. That's it. But I wanted to know the name of the company that NVIDIA is getting ready to buy, because that's the one that I want to invest in. And 36,000% return, and everything is fine. I'll settle on this house and for y'all, and it's like all good, and so that's how I was thinking, but the fact that there was some anxiety and the push meant the equilibrium was not right. And I'm trying to get it right. He says, actually, people of great holiness or liberation only care about whether living beings are cultivating themselves and have merit for good action. So how much can I care about your having this or having that? Can't care that much about it. If you have it, great. If you don't, great. I have to only care about whether you're cultivating yourself and having merit from whose good actions? Your own good actions. They manifest in different forms to kindly teach living beings. This is the principle. And then he went on to talk about how he was slandered. And he was slandered for a year. And he said, but did I read it? Did I read one of the articles slandering me? He said, no, I didn't. He said, I heard about it because you all told me about it. He said, but I didn't read the articles. I didn't pay attention to it. He said, now this is something people of the world could not do. That was a critical judgment. It would be normal for someone who is slandered to respond. He said, but why should I bother to respond to slander? Everything is a dream, illusion, bubble, shadow, like dew, like lightning. So no matter if you experience prosperity or decline, it is all within the true suchness, reality, nature. And so you should remain imperturbable. This imperturbability must be natural and not forced. This is very important. Good fortune is our good reward. When your good fortune comes and you have abundant food, clothing, housing, and means of transportation, you feel very fortunate and satisfied. But at this time, something that is not right also happens. Your attachment to self increases. You should not seek good fortune. You should cut off mundane desire for good fortune and not care about it. You might say, how can it be acceptable for us to not seek good fortune? Wouldn't we starve to death if we didn't? Don't worry. I won't have you starve. You would not starve. Why? It is because of the relationship of cause and effect. Being attached to good fortune is being attached to something false. Therefore, being attached to good fortune is a worldly, ordinary feeling. So that means that believing in cause and effect means that when there is a time for the arising of good fortune, you can't stop it. So whenever there's some anxiety around it, you don't have your idea about it right. And this is really, really subtle. I hope you're listening to me deeply about how we go deep. Because we always come up with the what ifs around the obvious things, but going deep is a little bit scary. We don't want to go that deep. Gladness, because I'm going to stop in 5 minutes, so I want to get to gladness. With good fortune comes gladness or joy. Gladness is also a worldly, ordinary feeling. It is produced from mistaken thoughts. It is not one's original nature or the body of true suchness that is part of the absolute truth. As long as you are glad, understanding your mind and seeing your original nature are out of the question. To say that you can see your original nature in a state of gladness is deceitful. Now, don't misinterpret my meaning. Even laughing heartily is not a problem. The key point is that you are able both to do things and let go of things that you do. So we're happy and we're glad, when we're doing things, but you have to be just as glad to let them go. Sometimes we have to work on that. Our identity really is wrapped up in what we do, even when we say it's not, even when we think it's not. We're wrapped up in our labels, of wife, of husband, of mother, of teacher, of nun, of we are still wrapped. I saw that hand. We're still wrapped in these identities, and that wrapping is the binding that keeps us from really being free. And sometimes we have to maintain something for the sake of others. Like you don't have to go into the living room and poop. You go to the bathroom for that in private, but so sometimes we do things and that we won't disappoint or disillusion the weak-minded. And so we have to allow for making those kinds of decisions. But I'm saying don't have any illusions about yourself. Don't fool yourself around why you're glad. Because if you're only glad when it's going your way, that's going to be different from having of whether you can let go of it when it's not going your way. You know how people be like Jekyll and Hyde? Yeah. When they were saying like you were doing good, oh that's so great, and said one little thing, now it's not going your way. So So am I clear about gladness or joy? So you're not saying you don't have gladness, but in it you need to make sure that it stays, that you are not losing your grounding, that if it was taken away, you know. Yes.
I differ and I don't, I've always thought of gladness and joy as different. I have associated gladness or happiness with conditions sometimes, where joy, I feel like, is an internal state that's always available to me. And so those words, they're just words, but
Yeah, yeah, but they're words. And you could use them anyway. Like I consider myself, um, I'm glad, you know. I mean, I can laugh about bad situations because I mean, like if that's where we are, that's where we are, and I really, really mean it, you know. So in that sense, within like particular languaging, I've always used joy. Um, but here he calls that gladness or joy. And here he's speaking specifically of when it comes as a result of good fortune.
that helps.
As to have an all abiding okayness with things coming or things going. Yes, what's his name?
Sue,
Sue.
she just walked out.
She had wanted to say something and I wanted to give her a chance.
Oh, I wanted to say something.
Oh, yes.
So the gladness in the action, I notice that I have a lot of gladness when I take action that is the right action.
We should.
No, it's wrong for me to, because that whole right is my judgment about doing it the right way or doing it the wrong way, and I did it the right way, which is my, yeah.
So this depends on the circumstance, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And really knowing from the root what the source of our true contentment or joy is. Like but we should be joyful to see the progress of the Dharma, you know, the Dharma having an effect in our life. You know, like there was a time when I couldn't handle anything, you know. So I looked for strong men to handle, you know. If you didn't have a strong arm and a good singing voice, don't talk to me, you know, because I needed soothing sounds, you know, you had to be able to sing and me, and you had to be strong and in charge. But over the course of my life, I became strong. And when they come up that strong, I'm thinking, you better go sit down. You know, because I found my own strength, you know, and so, but it was the teaching of the sages that let me know I had it, that helped me to find my strength. And so now my joy, I can make myself happy. You know, if something's not going good and I'm starting to get bombed, I'm like, you know, I can like turn myself around. I can. You know, I'm not a victim. You know, I'll just say that's nobody's fault but mine. You think you caused that? No, I'm not a chance. Now I take full responsibility for this. You know, and it's a very there is a gladness in that, but it's also very much tied into the sense of gratitude and generosity. Apart from having that gratitude and generosity, a good fortune becomes something in the stock of greed or greedy attachment, as opposed to seeing the abundant nature of the universe to always supply, you know, or that you don't need it. You know, either one of those. It's not that one-sided, always supplying the needs. It's like not having to have it at all. You know, and so it's these ways that we have to keep looking and we have to keep balancing. Increase, 2 minutes. Increase refers to increasing everything that is of benefit to you. The operative word there is your. You are comfortable when your money increases, when your property value goes up. Like we can say real estate is getting ridiculous. It's outrageous. But if I had one to sell, I'd be trying to sell it for the top dollar. That's just it. You know, you're comfortable when your health increases or when you regain your health. And as a result, you generate attachment to self. So feeling comfortable or like this is a kind of self-attachment where we're moved by the circumstances. And this will help us just as we're going through the course of the day to notice, just notice like when Susan calls for good music, news, and then John calls right behind that with not good news, and then Sarah calls right behind that with good news, and then Nancy just calls right behind that with not good news, you know, and you'll see how you uplifted one minute and you're down the next, you uplifted 1 minute and you're down the next, and then just see where you need to work with that to just kind of balance it. So he calls this traveling on the small road and says you should be very diligent. You should not be feeling pressure, and the pressure that makes you feel sorrowful, bad, or upset. And you have to train yourself to allow decrease. So I think I'm gonna end right now. But I did, and I'm not gonna finish. Oh gosh, it's a lot of them. I guess we should finish them because we're just on number 10 of 20. And that deals with resentment and anger. And I do want to touch that because resentment is a tricky thing that creeps up on us so fast. We don't even realize that we're resenting something, you know, but that comes into play a lot in why we can't get along with each other. It's resentment over something. And if you don't think you're resenting anything, you won't look there. But he teaches us how to really understand the root of resentment. So when we finish this, we'll have everything we need in our arsenal to be able to handle all the vicissitudes of life, whatever comes, and to really enjoy the present moment, because like it or lump it, that's really all you have, and you don't even really have that. You know, that it actually becomes what we make it from the inside. So I thank you all for being here today. And I thank you for your cultivation. And I'm just so happy to see how much progress, you know, when you're cleaning out stuff, all the stuff that was hidden in the closet like comes out. You know, it comes out like, oops, I didn't mean for that shoe to drop off the shelf. And so don't be too hard on yourselves when you see things about yourself or others, or when others see things about you. Just know that it is because of cultivation that is coming out of the dark. Yeah. Okay. Someone want to offer up?
I've been singing a song this past week. I feel like it kind of, so I'm gonna just sing a little bit of it.
Okay.
Be gentle and kind to yourself. Be gentle and kind to yourself. When the going gets tough and the feelings are rough, be gentle and kind to yourself. May the merit from this practice and sincere listening truly benefit all living beings in the 6 realms of reincarnation. May they come to understand the true principles of the Dharma and realize Nirvana immediately.
Thank you.